Did you know that Dokkan and JP were supposed to sync much earlier? That the Book of War used to be a paid item? That Dokkan is the only game to recognize the false Super Saiyan form? That there's literally an SR card that buffs the enemies? Or that my name is literally banned in Dokkan? Hi, I'm Proof, and this video is the compilation of the years of research I did making content about the hit mobile game Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle. More than 100 facts about Dokkan that will range from minor well-known facts to pretty obscure things you probably didn't know or even think of. And yeah, this is a revamped version of my previous video where I fixed all of the mistakes I've said or made, while also adding almost 50 plus new Dokkan Battle facts. And if you've already watched the previous video and just want to jump straight into the new facts, the timestamps are in the description down below. Enjoy! If you didn't know, they actually lowered the rates of the banners during the first year anniversary on Global. A common misconception is that they lowered the rates of the anniversary banners, knowing that people would summon no matter what for Gogeta, since he was simply the best unit in the game and by far. But that would have been extremely shady, and honestly, borderline illegal. What they actually did was lower the rates across all banners, and this happened 3 weeks after the initial release of the anniversary banners. So it wasn't as bad, but it was still extremely shady, because as far as I know, they didn't announce anything. This is something that the community figured out themselves thanks to data miners. Did you know that Global held a legendary campaign during their second year anniversary where people could vote for the next character they wanted to see as an LR? The winner was obviously Vegito Blue, but the interesting part about that list is that one of the last units on that list to not have an LR is Kid Buu. Like, bro, this has to be some sort of like joke at Bandai or something. Like, ain't no way this isn't intentional. 10 years and still no LR Kid Buu. How? Just how? Did you know that the N Physical Style Junior has a 12k multiplier of 160%, the highest in the game? Well, if we exclude the 10th year anniversary fusions, who have 12k multipliers of 170%. But for a long time, that N card had the highest K multiplier in the game, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. This is actually a pretty well known fact, and I'm sure you've heard of it. But 20% for Gogeta and Omega Shenron, first released on Global during the first ever shared celebration across both versions, they didn't have any leader skills. This was because the update that introduced the category mechanic into the game wasn't out yet on Global. I guess their global team was small or something, but yeah, they just released the characters with to-be-released leader skills, which was just absolutely crazy, especially since Gogeta and Omega had sub-leader skills, so they could have at least been released with their sub-leader skills. But I guess that would have been too complicated to do. Like, this whole thing was just a mess. The update released like 2 months later on Global, so for almost 3 months, some of the most anticipated and hyped cards in the game just had no leader skills. Truly one of Global's biggest shafts. Fun fact, but Physical Super Vegito had his card art made way before his initial release, like you can see in this trailer that released back in 2015 when the game first released on Global. That trailer also released 2 months before the release of the first ever Dokkan Fest on JP, Strength Broly, who was actually also featured in the trailer. Did you know that Fat Boo's gimmick used to be that he had a 12k multiplier of 150%? Trust me bro, just see, all the TUR Fat Boos in the game that aren't exchange units have a 12k multiplier of 150%. And I'm saying this was a gimmick because in the earlier days of Dokkan, units didn't have 12k multipliers that high. Even Dokkan Fest had key multipliers of like 150% maximum. Before the release of Super Gogeta, Physical Fat Boo was the only unit in the game to have a 12k multiplier of 150%. Like even Dokkan Fest Physical Kid Buu, who came almost 6 months later, only had a 12k multiplier of 140%. Devilman has a 1% chance of pretty much killing anything in the game. This is why the guy is banned from multiple events, to stop players from cheesing those events with him, which in my opinion is just not fair. Like, if you are willing and able to pull Devilman's 1% killing ability to win a hard event stage, like bro, that win is deserved, at least in my books. Did you know that LR Goku and Frieza used to have some sort of KO screen? I'm 90% sure this wasn't intended and probably just a bug, but yeah, if you killed an enemy with them, the last few frames of their super attack would play back just like a KO screen, which was cool for sure. Physical Super Saiyan Gotenks slightly bends over when he launches an additional super attack. I don't know if you can see it, maybe if I slow it down or something, but yeah, he clearly rotates clockwise on his additional super attack. To me, that's clearly a bug, but I'm not sure if they fixed it or not. If someone has the time to try it out in game, feel free to let us know in the comments down below. As you probably already know, the 10th year anniversary came with tons of leaks, and it started with the Memorial Stone, which they accidentally left in the Countdown Celebrations data download, which honestly wasn't that bad of a leak, since we couldn't really tell what it was going to be used for, unlike what they left in the next data download, where they left some of Gogeta's assets, including the medals from his upcoming Dokkan event, so we now knew he was going to be the Dokkan Fest LR for the second part of the anniversary before the anniversary even began. Like, it was crazy. They then leaked LR AGL Bardock the next month in one of the anniversary trailers. You could clearly see his card art, and it was very easy to piece things together and figure out that this was going to be the LR awakening of the story event free-to-play Bardock. But honestly, I don't know if this was actually a mistake because of some changes in their schedule with the sync, or that they just didn't care at all. Honestly, who knows? Did you know that when Tech Golden Frieza first came out on JP, he had the wrong coloring? Look at his arms and legs. They're supposed to be purple, but instead, they were gold. Honestly, I'm not surprised. I would have probably made a similar mistake at the time if I didn't pay attention. On Strength Rose's initial banner, the image of the banner showed the TOR of Super Saiyan 3 Broly instead of his SSR, which, as you would imagine, was very misleading. So they refounded all players who summoned on the banner, while Broly was displayed incorrectly, and also gave an additional 5 stones to all players as an extra compensation. Rose's banner was also bugged on Global. On the featured units tab, the sprite of Text % Blue Goku was shown instead of SR AGL Shenron. I think that's just as bad of an error as the one that happened on JP. But you know what they did on Global? Absolutely nothing. They just fixed it and gave every player 1 Dragon Stone. Now I'm starting to remember why Global players whined so much about the 300 stones situation. Like, they messed up so many times on Global, but never gave any type of compensation. Bro, they could have at least refounded the players. I'm sure there's at least one guy who summoned on the banner thinking Super Saiyan Blue Goku was a featured unit. It's crazy to me how much they just didn't care. You've probably heard about Global Shafts and how much the devs didn't care about the global version of the game. But let me show you how much they actually didn't care. Look at this. This was AGL Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken's banner on Global, which featured Strength Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta instead of AGL Super Vegito. That was already a huge shaft in itself. But then you look closer and bro, they literally just copy-pasted Strength Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta over AGL Super Vegito. They really didn't care at all. At all, bro. Did you know that on Physical Full Powers Frieza's initial banner, the banner showed the TORs of Super Saiyan 3 Goku and Physical Kid Buu instead of their SSRs? This wasn't fixed on either Global or JP, and they didn't give out any compensation either, because when it happened almost 2 years later on Rose's initial banner, they refounded every player who summoned on the banner. You've probably already heard about the Kefla's 300 stones situation, but do you really know how bad it actually was? Long story short, they messed up something with the servers, and people were saying different characters in the SSR pool. This obviously caused a huge controversy, where people thought Bandai was rigging the rates, that each person had different rates and characters on every banner, and that the update had just revealed what they were truly doing all along. As far as we know, this wasn't the case. This was purely a visual bug, but you can guess it looked bad, really bad. So they had to do something about it. So that's when they made the choice to refound every player the stones they used on the banner, as well as giving every single player 300 stones, even those who didn't summon on the banner, which was, as you would guess, just insane. 300 stones, that was something at the time. But that also sparked another controversy. People thought that it was just too fishy for Bandai to be that generous, you know? Let's not forget that the producer at the time was Toshi, so a lot of people just saw it as hush money, and probably still think to this day that Dokkan was rigging rates and scamming players. But honestly, who knows? Did you know that in the early days of the game, there was a bug where if you switched friends while the game was loaded, it was possible to have characters switch super attack animations. For example, you could have Yamcha perform the Soul Punisher. I really wonder how this bug would have looked today on modern characters. Dokkan animations have come a long way, so I can only imagine that this would have looked interesting, to say the least. Not only do the tag LR Kel plus Caulifla not fuse into Kefla, Kel's crit passive is actually bugged. You see, her first super attack is supposed to be a guaranteed crit, but for some reason it just doesn't when it's a Dokkan attack, which I'm pretty sure is not intended, and is, in my opinion, a pretty massive bug. Kel's first super attack does just so much more damage than her other super attacks, so if it doesn't crit, that's a lot of damage you're missing. Well, actually, it has come to my attention that this might in fact not be a bug, but actually just how the game works. Because as you probably already know, Dokkan attacks ignore the defenses of the enemy, and that's what critical hits are in Dokkan. Just attacks that ignore the defenses of the enemy. They don't have a higher damage multiplier or anything of that sort. But I've also heard that Dokkan attacks ignore the temporary buffs on Super, so this could still be a bug. Honestly, who knows. Did you know that there's a Kimono 18 card that was given out as a New Year Logan bonus reward to celebrate the New Year 2018? This has to be one of the best looking card art in the game, and very unfortunate that we might never be able to obtain it again. Did you know that Dokkan used to have an insta-kill bug, where you could somehow activate 2 active skills at the same time and just one-shot any boss in the game? But unlike the airplane bug, this wasn't something you could abuse anytime you wanted. You actually needed a lot of different things to go your way to be able to exploit that bug. Like, the first active skill had to be an active skill that does damage, and the second active skill had to have its conditions met while you activate the first character's active skill. So the second active skill had to have some sort of HP condition. So that meant you had to find a way to lose or get HP while activating the first active skill. Hence why that bug was mainly used with the boos, since they had a lot of HP regeneration, either through their passives or links. So yeah, that meant that unfortunately you couldn't really use that bug to beat something like the punch bag event, since you couldn't lose HP there. And honestly, I don't even know if this bug has been patched yet. It wouldn't even surprise me if it's still in game, since not too long ago some guy found a way to exploit that bug even further and have a standby character be your slot 1, 2 and 3 tank. Like, you can imagine how broken that can be, knowing that standby forms are some of the tankiest units in the game. Now let's go back to 2021 with the New Year Step Up banner on Global. I remember players being very hype about that banner since it featured Strength UI Goku, and it was leaked a couple of months prior that one of the anniversary headliners was going to be a new MUI Goku of some sort, which meant that LR Strength UI Goku was probably going to be that new UI Goku's best linking partner. At least that's what I thought. But Bandai had to obviously mess it up by making UI Goku only obtainable on the last step as the slot 10 guaranteed featured unit. You couldn't get him in any other slot, let alone any other step. So his rates were severely reduced. But to make things even worse, the reason you couldn't get him in the other steps and slots was because in those said steps and slots, he was somehow replaced by LR Text Percent Goku, who wasn't even supposed to be on the banner. So yeah, they had no choice but to refund every player the stones they used on the banner, as well as an additional 10 stones as extra compensation. This was huge, especially if you had 600 stones saved up. It meant you did all of the steps and rotations on the banner essentially for free. The problem though is that they didn't actually reset the steps. So if you really wanted LR UI Goku and had already completed those steps, your only option was to summon on the banner without the step ups, which honestly wasn't worth it. So you unfortunately had to just wait for his next appearance. That was definitely a smart move. But man, I do feel bad for the players who pulled it Text Percent Goku, knowing that it could have been LR Strength UI Goku if the devs had just done their job properly. I actually just found an old screenshot from that time and they gave me back 700 stones, meaning I did 2 additional multis after the rotations. I wish I had done more honestly, but yeah, I guess the banner really was that good. Did you know that when LR Tech Broly first dropped on Global, he had a voiceless active skill, which at the time was kind of excusable, or could have been excusable? Like, okay, it's a Global first, there's maybe some excuse to why they couldn't give him a voiced active skill, but the problem here is that when he came to JP, he had a voiced active skill, and that it took them almost 2 years to give him a voice on Global. 2 years, bro. That's just like crazy. Like, how, bro? How? 2 years to just give a character a voiced active skill, and literally his voiced active skill is just him like screaming. Like, like that's just crazy. Like, they didn't care at all about Global players at all, bro. And sure, you could use the excuse that there were some issues with his English voice actor, but they could have just given us the Japanese active skill voice. Or am I wrong? So there's really no excuse here. When LR Strength UI Goku came to Global, the medals displayed in the news to Dokkan Awaken his SSR were wrong. It displayed the medals of Ageless Percent Blue Kaikon Goku, when it should have displayed Strength Percent Blue Kaikon Goku's medal. It was fixed quickly, but as far as I remember, they didn't give us any sort of compensation, which was okay, I guess. About Strength UI Goku, his easy event was apparently bugged on Global. He was just like a regular strength type unit instead of being like super strength, making his event slightly easier to beat. Did you know that at some point in time, Dokkan had a crossover campaign with Arale? Yes, they dropped a banner with a bunch of cards from Dr. Slump, and Arale even had her own Dokkan event OST, an absolute fire OST by the way, a certified classic. About 2 or 3 weeks before the release of physical Super Vegito on Global, they accidentally updated Agel's Super Vegito's Dokkan event, and you could now farm glitched copies of the SSR Strength Vegito that came with physical Super Vegito's updated Dokkan event. Those copies had no image and couldn't be used for anything other than leveling up the super attacks of the other Vegitos, which was actually perfect at the time since it meant that LR Strength Vegito Blue's super attack was now farmable earlier than expected. Did you know that on JP, there used to be some sort of glitch Piccolo friend in the 3rd stage of the Dragon Ball History event? I honestly have no idea how that happened and couldn't find more about it, but from what I remember, people barely talked about it at the time since he was only available in that specific stage of the Dragon Ball History event, a stage that most people had already beaten. But I do remember people speculating that this was some sort of dev unit or some modded unit. Honestly, who knows? Did you know that JP had some bugged cards back in 2018? Something that I found out scripting out my history videos. When Physical Bird Ghost first awakened on JP, the second part of his passive used to only give him 3% attack and defense, instead of an additional 3% attack and defense per key spheres obtained, which was, as you can probably guess, a huge mistake. Like, that's just crazy. The difference between just 3% at the start of turn to 3% per key spheres obtained is absolutely huge. Like, he was a completely different card with that bug, but thankfully they resolved the issue quickly and gave every player one Dragonstone. Not even like 2 months later, the physical Future Play Middle Cooler was also bugged on release. The healing part of his passive didn't activate on normal attacks, which was also pretty huge since it left a lot of HP out of the table. Like, those normal attacks could heal you a decent amount of HP, especially with like a crit. Did you know that there used to be a time where you could actually quote unquote hack the account of another Dokkan player by having their name ID? And if I remember it correctly, an idea of what their bugs looked like the most recent units they pulled. You could generally just open a ticket on the behalf of the player, claiming that you lost access to your account, like their account, and Bandai would generally just give you their account. Like, it was crazy. Like, didn't Bandai think for a second that there's players making content about their game, and that if it were that simple for someone to recover an account, that those content creators would be like targets? Which is exactly what happened to Living Ichigo. Someone stole his account that way and apparently deleted all of his ultra rares. Like, what kind of hater do you have to be to do something like that? Like, that's just crazy to me.
So, pretty much what's going on lately is accounts are in jeopardy of being stolen, mine included. This is the second time my account has been stolen from me. Whether, it's kind of ridiculous how easily it's been happening.
Thankfully, there was ironically only one way to recover your account from something like that, and it was to have some sort of payment history within the game, aka having bought stones at some point in time with that account. So Living Ichigo was able to recover his account and get all of his LRs restored, but I remember this whole situation scaring a lot of players back then, because even when I first started the game back in 2018, some players were still masking their players' names and IDs when posting like in-game screenshots online. Like, this whole thing really scared players. And that's probably also why Dokkan ditched like the whole transfer code system. Because yeah, if you didn't know, back in the days when you created a Dokkan account, you had like a transfer code that you could then use to like recover your account. LR Vegito Blue is the only unit in the game to have been changed twice because of the outrage of people. The first time was before he was about to release. He had the over in a flash key link, but due to players' complaints, they changed it to Prepared for Battle. And if you're wondering why Prepared for Battle was the better key link, it's because the Potara team had barely any over in a flash units. Prepared for Battle was a way more common link there. So Tech Vegito Blue was used in the Realm of Gods team and LR Strength Vegito Blue in the Potara team. The second time this guy got buffed before release was when they first announced his Easy. Bro, that Easy was just so trash. His original Easy passive gave him just way too much ki, while only giving him an additional 30% chance of flushing an additional super attack. And they barely like increased his stats, so it was almost impossible to hit his 12 ki and stack with him, which was what you wanted to do with that Vegito Blue stack defense. I still remember people speculating that it was generally just better to not fully Easy him, just take the first 2 steps of his Easy for the super attack level and not get his upgraded passive, which would stop you from hitting his 12 ki super. That was just crazy. Thankfully, thanks to the players' outrage, they buffed him before release, giving him more stats in his passive and bumping his super attack chance from 30% to 50%. Like, sure, he still wasn't as good as people hoped for, since we all expected him to stack defense on his 18 ki super, but yeah, he was now way better than what they initially showed us. You've probably heard how broken Super Gogeta was on release, but do you just know how broken he was? Like when people say that Gogeta was probably a mistake, they're not kidding. This guy was an absolute monster. And it's not just because of his leader skill. Like sure, he had the best leader skill in the game, by far. But that wasn't all. He was the only unit in the game with an immense damage multiplier. The best damage multiplier in the game. He had an insane link set for the time, being one of the very few units to have both Prepared for Battle and Over in a Flash, the two best key links of the time. He also was the TUR with the highest key multiplier in the game. And I could still keep going. Like this guy was just crazy, bro. Did you know that physical Super Saiyan Trico Tanks was buffed before release? His 12 key super was initially supposed to sacrifice 7% HP on super, and his buffs were not as good at the start of turn. Obviously people were mad, like he was already a glass cannon, and arguably worse than his tech counterpart, a unit that came a year before him. So yeah, they listened to the players and buffed him before release, turning him into one of the strongest Neo Gods leaders of that year. If you didn't know, the first version of the Friend Summon banner didn't even have Hercule status. Actually, it didn't even have an SR character. The banner only featured R characters. And if you're wondering which one was the best, it was probably Piccolo because of the region links bug. Outside of the first year anniversary, their third year anniversary was the driest anniversary ever. It only gave 200 stones in total and barely had any events. Like bro, the celebration had probably the worst part 2 of any anniversary. All we got was some rehashed legendary summon banners, a free-to-play EZA, and I guess 5 new free-to-play units. I think Toshi left the game shortly after, but I don't know if he got fired because of how whack that anniversary was, or the anniversary was whack because he was about to leave. I guess we'll never know. Did you know that in the World Tournament field, the character who picked the lowest number will move first, and the character who picked the highest number will move last? I for the longest time thought that this was completely random, so I was actually surprised to learn that this was based on the numbers you and your opponents chose, which is interesting and might actually save you some time in your next World Tournament grind. Did you know that some players were able to get the LR Androids Legendary Campaign rewards twice, which was already crazy since those rewards were just insane? But the crazy part here is that as a compensation, they give every player the rewards again, even those who already got them twice. So those players actually got the rewards thrice. So literally 105 stones, enough HL potential orbs to rainbow 3 characters, and 105 buck space. Just absolute craziness, bro. 105 buck space and 105 stones. Like, bro. Just, this was insane. This was absolutely insane. I'm sure you've all heard how a higher team cost gives you more points in the World Tournament. Well, apparently that's false. According to Lotad, if you don't know him, he's one of those Dokkan sweats, or tryhards, however you want to call them, who actually grinds the World Tournament for that rank 1 spot, and he's succeeded multiple times on global. Like being rank 1 once is already a big achievement, but doing it multiple times, yeah, that's just crazy. So people were curious about how he was able to do it, so he made a thread on Twitter explaining his strategy. Apparently the enemies you face in the World Tournament are based on your team, meaning if you keep using the same team, you'll always be facing the same type of enemies given roughly the same amount of points. So he actually figured out that if you're already using a strong team with a decent amount of AoE units, you can just reroll the other characters on your team until you find the right combination that will give you the team that faces the enemies offering the most points. Crazy, right? If you're curious, this was the team with the best seed during the 49th World Tournament, and as far as I know, it probably still is. If you didn't know, the World Tournament used to be a lot worse. For example, there was a time where you needed to beat every multiplier one by one during every single World Tournament to unlock the last one. This was just unnecessary and added even more grind to an already grindy event. I'm glad that the last multiplier is now directly unlocked, it just saves so much time. Did you know that there was a point in time where players had to win the World Tournament 100 times just to get one SSR ticket? 100 times. Like bro, I can't even get my 30 wins nowadays, and you're telling me that people used to run this thing 100 times for a single SSR ticket and with no AoE units? Sure, SSRs are still pretty rare at the time and hard to get, but I wouldn't even do it for an LR guaranteed ticket nowadays, so I respect the dedication players had at the time. Did you know that there were actually some World Tournaments with better rewards than others? For example, the 13th World Tournament gave some sort of Super Saiyan Goku item, which, if I'm not mistaken, was basically a guaranteed LR Super Saiyan Goku figurine directly delivered to your house. Honestly, this was probably worth the grind, since only the top 100 players were rewarded with one of those figurines. I don't know if this was like a limited edition run or something like that, but if it was, yeah, this was probably the only world tournament ever worth grinding. The second one would probably be the one during the second year anniversary, the 17 World Tournament. Simply because unlike the previous World Tournaments, that one gave not only more stones and SSR tickets, but also Elder Kais, Potential Orbs, and a God Stone. Potential Orbs and Elder Kais were very rare at the time, and difficult to come by, so the amounts they gave were actually very good. And the God Stone, it gave you a free Dokkan Fest character, which is always good, especially with the easiest that came the same year, turning some of these characters into absolute monsters. But the crazy part was that this wasn't the only God Stone they gave during that celebration. You also had your typical God Stone given as a login bonus reward, plus the one from the World Tournament. So up until 2024, this was the only celebration ever to give multiple God Stones for free. There's also the 28th World Tournament that happened during the 4th year anniversary. The rewards weren't buffed like the 2nd year anniversary one, but they did bring back the end of Zigoku, who was given as a reward card during the 1st World Tournament, and at the same time gave him a Dokkan Awakening. He wasn't anything crazy, but still a cool trophy card nonetheless. Did you also know that some cards were only available as rewards during specific World Tournaments? Like, those cards are not obtainable anymore. Agel Oob, who was given as a reward card during the 13th World Tournament on JP and the 11th World Tournament on Global. SR Tech Roshi, who was given as a reward card during the 1st World Tournament on both versions. SR Strength Oob, who was given as a reward card during the 1st World Tournament only on JP. And Int SR Goku was given out as a reward card during the 1st and 28th World Tournaments. Did you know that originally the Baba Shop had a reset time of 24 hours, which was changed to 30 minutes in some update that I couldn't find, but I think it was around the 1st year anniversary. Did you know that there was a point in time when the monotype Baba Shop units had a cost of 100k Baba points, which is just as bad as it sounds, if not worse, because Baba points were way harder to get at the time. If you ever wondered what kind of cards people were rerolling for when the game first released, well, word got out pretty fast at the time that the best card to reroll for was actually SR First Form Frieza. He had a decent leader skill, 15% attack to all types, his super attack effect lowered the enemy's attack, and his passive gave him an unconditional 1500,000 attack, which was very good at the time. He also had the Metamorphosis link, so you could link him up with any Zarbon card and just like Piccolo and Nell, heal up to 15% HP in a single turn. Because if you didn't know, links that healed you when activated, like Namekian or Metamorphosis, were actually bugged and could be procced up to 3 times within the same turn, making units with those links insanely valuable. Did you know that the Super Saiyan 4's card arts were leaked 2 weeks before the 4th year anniversary on Reddit? I remember seeing their card arts at the time and thinking, wow, those are actually some pretty well made card arts. But I just moved on with my life because, like most people, I assumed they were fake. I was so surprised, but also disappointed when I realized they weren't. I don't know, it felt like those card arts weren't really that great. Same with their super attacks, which were just recycled versions of the Battlefield Goku and Vegeta's super attacks. Well, actually, it was the other way around. If you didn't know, the LR Super Saiyan 4s were made almost a year in advance, which we now know, thanks to Omatsu, that it's the standard, but the thing is, they were apparently way worse than what we actually got. Originally, their passives were something, to say the least. 80% attack for Goku and 80% defense for Vegeta. That's it. Like, that was their passives. Their whole gimmick was that they would rely on the massive buffs they got from their super attacks. Thank God they changed them before release, because this would have easily been the biggest fumble of all time if they didn't. You've probably all heard how cards like Strength Super Gogeta and Agel Super Vegito used to dominate the game during their time, but there's one card who was genuinely insane that nobody's talking about: Strength Super Saiyan Bardock. He not only was the first kind of hype unit the game had to offer, but he also was the best unit in the game. Like, he introduced the 25% attack to all types leader skill, which quickly became the new best leader skill in the game, while also supporting the entire rotation for 15% attack. So not only did he have the best leader skill in the game, but he could also support the entire rotation and link pretty well with most of the best units at the time, who were for the most part Super Saiyan units. So yeah, that guy was just crazy. Did you know that Agel Super Vegito's best linking partner used to be our Oceanus Shenron, since she was AGL, sealed on Super, and shared the Shock and Speed link with him? I don't think I need to explain further why they were good together. They just dominated Dokkan events at the time, turning some of the hardest events like Strength Broly's one into like a complete joke. Broly's Dokkan event stage was one of the hardest events the game has known, like ever. It introduced a pay-to-win mechanic called Rampage, an ability that could only be disabled using one of the new characters that came alongside Broly. That event was legit almost impossible to beat without stuns, and Broly was just so tanky it was ridiculous. He also hit pretty damn hard since defense leader skills were not meta. Fun fact about Rampage, but that ability is basically just a ton of additional defense given to Broly. So people found out that you could just use characters that lower defense to bypass it. One of the best characters to bring into Broly's original Dokkan event was Tech SR Goldo, since he lowered all enemies' defense to 0 for 3 turns after being attacked. Like, he pretty much completely removed Broly's Rampage and more. Like, it was just insane.
Thanks to people on my Twitch stream just now, I figured out the most ultimate strategy how to beat this event. So, I'm not taking any blazing or defense breaking cards that say lower defense. Well, kind of. Wait a second, Livinicio. You have Gildo right there. Why is Gildo on your team? Why, you might ask? Because Gildo turned out to be the most broken ass, busted, godly card of all time. You might think I'm crazy. I'm not crazy. I'm going to show you why. Passive skill. Paralysis. Briefly lower all enemies' defense to 0 upon being attacked. Holy crap. You don't understand how ridiculous that is.
As a matter of fact, that passive was so good that SR Goldo could be used on any Dokkan event stage that required you to use a specific set of characters, since you could simply just bypass the special defenses they had. That's crazy. Did you know that Dokkan events used to have a stamina cost of 4D for the Z hard difficulty and 50 for the super difficulty? Like, they were extremely expensive. Like, most people's stamina bars were barely breaking the 100 stamina mark, so you can guess that that just made Strength Broly's Dokkan event even worse. Did you know that people summoned for the first Strength percent Trunks mainly because he was the closest thing the game had to a Broly?
Trunks. So we got Super Trunks, the buff Trunks, the Broly looking Trunks.
And yeah, honestly, he does look like Broly. Coming back to the topic of hard events, I'm sure you've heard of how bad Prime Battle events used to be, but do you really know how bad they were? The first ever Prime Battle event was just something else. So just to start off, this event had to be done with Super Strike characters, exclusively Super Strike characters. No free to play characters that weren't from a Strike event, and unfortunately, no Dokkan Fest TURs or other summonable units. And bro, just so you know, Strike characters at the time were honestly not that great.
Oh, hell no, man. What the?
Like, they were way past their prime, and train items and awakening medals were still pretty scarce, so most players just used them on their summonable units. No one expected this kind of event to drop out of nowhere, an event where you were forced to use strike characters who essentially sucked and were for the most part not worth the grind if you had a decent chunk of summonable characters. And also, super strike events weren't available all the time, so if you missed a specific character that was, for example, very good against Goku's Prime Battle event, you had to wait God knows how long to be able to farm it again. And bro, you had a 1% chance of dropping Goku. 1%. I guess like you were guaranteed one copy on your first run, but good luck farming more after that. That third stage, it costed 50 stamina at the time, which, like I said earlier, was pretty much half of your stamina bar if you had like a decent level. And the event was just way too difficult when you take into account the number of times the stage had to be run. You were getting 5 medals most of the time, and you needed 777 medals to awaken Goku into an LR. So this meant you had to run the stage at least 100 times. And that's if you had decent RNG and also, you know, just didn't die in the event. So realistically, it was more like 200 times. So let me break it down for you. You could realistically only run the event about 4 to 6 times a day because of the stamina cost. You had to run the event around 200 times, with each run lasting about 10 to 20 minutes. So if we do the math, that's about 40 minutes to 2 hours of grind every single day for like at least a month or two. For like what? Sure, LR Goku was phenomenal, but was he really like that good to justify that grind? Honestly, I don't know. Did you know that there was a time when strike characters were some of the best units in the game? They were actually must farms because of their leader skills and the fact that you could easily farm their super attacks. Something that wasn't possible for 99% of the cards in the game at the time. Elder Kais didn't exist, and SSR as a whole were almost as rare as LR nowadays. Did you know that strike events used to have a team cost limit of 100? Making units with low team cost is essential at the time. But funnily enough, Strength Gogeta was so broken on release that you could generally just run him alongside another Gogeta friend and just breeze through most strike event stages like they were nothing, with 5 Cybermen on on your team. As a matter of fact, team cost was such like a valuable thing at the time that the 2 first April Fool cards exclusively had value just for that reason. I'm not sure if this is true or not, but apparently Strengths % Vegeta's Dokkan event used to have weird sounds. Just take a look at that. It's probably just Bumble, right? Well, well, at least I hope so, because otherwise that's just weird and creepy, or worse. Fun fact, the highest grossing banners ever in the history of the game are the 5th year anniversary banners, featuring Tech LR Vegito and Strength LR Gogeta, which I guess makes sense. If you were there at the time, this was probably the hypest anniversary of all time. Like, the hype was just insane beyond belief. But the crazy part is that, in my opinion, those were the weakest anniversary units we ever got. Like, they were flashy and everything, but I could tell at the time, just from their kits, that they weren't going to age well. And I don't think they were the best units in the game either, which was a first. This was probably the only anniversary ever where the anniversary units weren't the best units in the game. But even then, I'm not gonna act like they didn't get me. This is the anniversary where I've spent the most amount of money in the game, like ever. I pretty much emptied the tickets in the shop. I'm not proud, but I almost Rainbow Tech Vegito Blue, so at least I didn't get shafted. Did you know that Dokkan had a crossover campaign with One Piece Treasure Cruise at some point, and there's actually a Doflamingo card in game. He was actually a boss in the crossover event, and as far as I know, this is the only time the game ever had a crossover campaign with something that wasn't related to Dragon Ball or Akira Toriyama. Did you know that some of Gotenks cards in the game intentionally misspell his super attack name as Kamehameha? It's a fun little reference to how he mispronounced Kamehameha when he was a kid. Kinda funny. Gohan cards are probably the most fumbled cards in Dokkan. 2 of the biggest fumbles in Dokkan's history are Gohan cards. Beastless Gohan, when Omatsu made everyone think that Beast Gohan was finally coming to Dokkan as a playable card, only for him to not only be an active skill attack, but the active skill attack of one of the worst releases in Dokkan's history. If LR Physical Ultimate Gohan was at least very good, this fumble could have been excusable. But the fact that he wasn't that great was just the biggest middle finger I've seen in the history of this game. And the crazy part is that before his release, another Gohan card, LR Agile Gohan, was seen as one of the biggest fumbles in Dokkan's history. Not because he was bad, the guy was actually pretty good on release, because he literally had the worst transforming condition we had ever seen. And I'm pretty sure that this meme referencing his transforming condition is still the most upvoted meme in the Dokkan Battle subreddit, just to show you how bad it actually was. If you've started after a 30-year anniversary, this might sound like a surprise to you, but the Book of War item they give out annually in May, normally during the Goku Day celebration, you know, the one that you can exchange for Goku's family units in the Baba shop? Well, believe it or not, that item actually used to be a premium item that people had to buy with real money, just like the Blue Godstone. If we factor in inflation, it was around like $25 at the time, which with inflation would probably be closer to $35 in today's currency. That's just honestly crazy to think about. Like $35, like bro, $35 for like a great ape unit, bro. Like, who are we kidding here? Like, that's just such a scam. I'm sure you've already heard how the mono 70% type leaders used to be called God's leaders, but do you know why? It's because they were just so good at the time. It's simply because the game went from only key leaders with Gogeta to a 70% buff to all stats. This was for sure the biggest power creep jump in the history of the game, even bigger than Gogeta's first appearance, or the 7th year anniversary Great Reset. Like, leader skills went from only giving 3 key and a flat stat buff of 3000 attack to 3 key and 70% to all stats. It's pretty much like if the 10th year anniversary new leader skills gave 270% HP attack and defense to a specific type. Monotype teams would have like instantly became the new meta, which is exactly what happened at the time. Talking about the gods leaders, the mono 100% type leaders were called demigods, because sure, they had bigger stats buffs than the gods leaders, but they didn't give key, which was and still is very important, hence why they were only seen as half as good as god leaders, so that's why they were called demigods. As for the neo gods, well, this one is pretty self-explanatory. They were better god leaders, hence why they were called neo god leaders. And if you didn't know, neo means new or revived form of, so yeah, it makes sense. Another fun fact, before guaranteed SSRs, Dokkan experimented with different types of pity systems, with one of them being a guaranteed new character for multi-summon. This sounds good on paper, but actually sucked in reality, since a new character could be anything ranging from an R to an SR, and stones were so limited that the chances of you having every R SR and SR characters in the game were pretty much non-existent, unless you were like a well or had been playing since like day one. Dokkan used to have a lot of Vegito units back in the early days. Like they literally did a dual Dokkan Fest of Rose and Vegito Blue 2 years in a row around the same time near the end of the year. Some people may think it's because Vegito Blue is some sort of money printing glitch for Bandai, which could be the case, but what if I told you that the producer of Dokkan used to be Toshi and that his favorite character was literally Vegito Blue? He said it himself in an interview back in 2017.
Definitely my current favorite character would be Vegito Blue from the new Dragon Ball Super series. It's just so cool to see a new form with these characters that you're familiar with and just break another wall and become more powerful.
I don't know if you knew, but you could obtain an Int SR Trunks if you pre-registered for the game. Bro, who would have pre-registered for the not-so-hit mobile game Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle at the time? I wouldn't be surprised if there's not a single player who still has that card now. The ones who did pre-register for the game probably stopped playing at some point. Like, is there even a single player who pre-registered and played Dokkan from day one until today and is still playing the game? Like, that's like, there's just no way. As surprising as this might sound, Text Percent for Gogeta was actually a pretty controversial release. Yes, Text Percent for Gogeta actually disappointed a lot of people back when he first got leaked in the global database.
Honestly, I've been waiting so long for this guy, and he's not as good as I was expecting him to be. Not as good. Yes, he's fucking OP, he's amazing, but Super Saiyan 4 Goku is all that and a bag of chips, man.
I guess, I'm gonna be honest, guys. I am a little underwhelmed by Gogeta. He is really good. Gogeta is really, really good, but this is unnecessary. Like, over in a flash, like, I mean, sure, that'll help him, like, link better with, like, you know, Gogeta and Vegito Blue, because the Super Saiyan 4s, you know, without Over in a Flash or Fuse Fighter, they don't fit as well on a hero team like as the hero team used to be previously constructed, you know, with Vegito Blue, Gogeta, Gotenks, you know, etc. I'm just not that impressed with Gogeta's, I don't know, We'll see.
He was probably the most anticipated unit at the time, or honestly one of the most anticipated units in the whole history of the game. So people expected him to be absolutely crazy, just for them to realize that he was actually not any better than the already existing Super Saiyan 4s, if not possibly worse. Did you know that at some point in time on Global, you could get trained android robots, like for example during the 2016 Christmas celebration. They give half the XP of a Z-Sword, so actually nothing crazy, but it's still funny to see. Like, look at that, bro. Android robots. Just so weird, bro, to see that in game. This is actually a good one, and something that I only found out because Anoji reached out to me on Twitter. Shout out to him. But apparently, back in the day, the community used to speculate which character was coming next using the link tab in game. Just look at this. This was a Reddit post made back in October 2015. But the first ever Super Sentry Goku came to Global in December 2015. So yeah, by pressing on a link, Global players could see in advance which GP cards were already in the game files, so they knew which one had the highest chance of coming next. A cool fact about Strength Super Sentry Goku is that they changed his title from Intergalactic Punch in Power to The Power to Shake the Universe shortly after his release on Global. On release, the devs cared so little about Global players that they didn't even keep track of the release dates of characters, even though we know, thanks to the internet and goats like Live in Ichigo, that Strength Super Sentry Goku released on December 14, 2015 on Global. But in the game files, he doesn't even have a release date. It's just marked as prior to October 2015, which is factually false. Like, like it's crazy, bro. They just didn't care, bro. In 2018, Dokkan released one of the worst April Fool jokes the game has known: Dokyun Battle on JP or Dolly Battle on Global, a dating simulator that featured some very questionable characters. So questionable that we might as well call the event a speedrun to prison, bro. Like, bro, the simulator featured Bra and Pan, who were both 9 and 10 respectively. And the things they were saying in those teasers, I have no idea how is this even legal. It's my pleasure going out with you. Like bro, what?
Oh, hell no! Oh, hell no! No!
I'll do a fashion show for you when we get back home. Did you know that there's an SR Nell card whose leader skill literally gives the whole team immunity to negative effects, meaning the enemies can't lower your defenses, stun, steal, or lock you, and you just need one of them as your leader. It would actually be crazy if one day this leader skill actually becomes usable. Maybe one day we'll be able to breeze through the hard content of today with this guy as one of our leaders. Did you know that there was a point in time when TURs were called LRs? This is because the LR icon was data mined before the first ever Dokkan Festival unit, Strength Broly. So people assumed that Dokkan Fest Broly was going to be the first LR. And even though Broly Dokkan awakened right away and was just like a regular TUR, the community just thought that the LR logo wasn't live yet, so they referred to him as LR Broly. Did you know that they used to be so rare the first year that they were introduced that they were for the most part ignored when discussing who the best cards were? Like, it was clear that they gapped the rest of the game, but the problem was that most of them came unfeatured on their initial banners, so your chances of pulling them were extremely low. So low that this was one of the main things that kept player interested in summoning videos. Like, literally some people were only watching summoning videos to see if they pulled an LR or not, because it was just like such a rare thing to see. And this was before the era of private servers, so the only way to actually see an LR in action was to actually pull them.
Pulling LRs back in 2016 when there was only 8 of them, they weren't featured. Well, it was way more like predatory for sure, like putting them in a banner and not featuring them like that and not having guaranteed SSR is like, it was dog shit from a business standpoint, but from a viewer standpoint and pulling the unit, it was way more special, like infinitely more special. Like LRs were still so rare and there's so few of them, and now there's like what, we're closing in on 150 or 200 or something like total if you include the free-to-play ones, so they're not as special anymore. And pulling them, it stopped becoming will Nanogenics or Rhymestyle pull it in this video, to you either pull it or they don't watch, because there's just, again, there's no mystery to it.
Did you know the first version of Dokkan Battlefield looked completely different from what we have now? That version also never made it to global, but it was basically just the Battlefield we know now, except instead of directly choosing a fight and making a team, you had to play some sort of minigame where you dropped characters to try and break the enemy's defenses before being able to start the fight against the boss. And the interesting part is that each type had like a different gimmick. For example, AGL type characters moved faster on the board. Fun fact, but AGL Kid Boost team was the first team ever in the history of the game to be able to break 100k HP, which was obviously insane at the time. Crazy to think that we're now able to break the 1 million HP mark with a 10th year anniversary power creep. There's a set of characters that were only obtainable on JP via some V-Jump codes. I'm pretty sure that we don't even have the option anymore to put codes in game. So it's safe to say that even if you somehow manage to find one of those V-Jump codes, they're just not usable anymore. Talking about codes, there's also this blue Goku that was only obtainable through a code from the Dragon Ball Super Start guide. So also a card we'll never be able to obtain. Did you know that there's 2 strike events that never got renewed into Super Strike events? Yes, the strike events for Kibito and Piccolo Jr. Those 2 cards were once available in their own strike events, but those strike events never got renewed, so those cards are just not available anymore, unfortunately. Did you know that the 7th year anniversary was arguably one of Dokkan's biggest meta shift? The power creep jump was so big with the introduction of the 200% leader skills and the new red zone events that 95% of the game got power crept. Cards that were released literally a month or 2 before that anniversary and were seen as very decent cards on release were now completely useless in that new meta, either because they didn't fit under one of the 2 new 200% leaders or simply because they couldn't hold their own defensively in those new red zone stages. This is also probably why the second part of the 7th year anniversary was such a joke. Releasing 2 new yellow coin LRs without giving them 200% leader skills was just a decision, to say the least. Did you know that there's a set of characters that just aren't obtainable anymore in their R forms? Because yes, back in the day, story events used to drop farmable R characters, but once those events got renewed, they were only farmable as SRs, so their R forms are simply not obtainable anymore. Did you know that the original card icon of the TR of the LR Goku and Arale had Krillin in the background? Which didn't make much sense since the icon of the character is, as far as I know, supposed to match the name of the character, and the card wasn't called Goku and Krillin. It was just a Goku card with Krillin in the background. So this was obviously changed before release to avoid confusion. Did you know that in named SR General Blue used to be one of the best units in the game. That guy had a great chance to stun on super, as well as an 8% chance of stunning all enemies at the start of turn, and back then, most bosses weren't immune to stuns. So that guy was just a godsend for free-to-play players. Some even say that he is the main reason why Dokkan event bosses became immune to stuns. Did you know that there's a set of cards who were only obtainable through missions during specific celebrations? Since they weren't farmable from any event, there's currently no way to obtain them. I could see Android 18 Link State coming back if they ever do like another Fighter Z collab, but I think we might never see Yamcha's girlfriend again, since Heroes isn't a teen anymore. Like, I guess they could still bring her back if they ever do like a Divers collab, but we can't know for sure. Did you know that there's an int Blue Goku who was only obtainable as a reward card during the 10 million download celebration? During the holidays, Dokkan liked to release some special Kais that were only obtainable during the celebration they came with, mainly by summoning on the carnival banner of that month. We've seen Santa Roshi come back plenty of times, so I could see them bringing back Santa Gohan Goku or Kid Trunks and Mai, but like I said earlier, as of now, they're unobtainable and we can't know for sure if they'll ever bring them back. Did you know that Dokkan had a collab with Sandland at some point in time? We even had a Beelzebub card, who was given as a low-get bonus reward card to celebrate the movie release of Sandland. Unfortunately, he isn't obtainable anymore and might never be, especially since Toriyama passed away, rest in peace to the GOAT, so this might be the last time we'll ever hear of Sandland. Did you know that the first year anniversary Spirit-Bomb Goku used to be called Big Butt Goku? And that's because that's what his name translated to in DBZ space. Big ass hope monkey. I honestly have no idea whether this is true or not, but you could apparently at some point dupe gift box rewards, meaning you could dupe stones. And there's some rumors that the global first LR Strength Broly Legendary banner was legit just a bait to catch players who were exploiting that bug. I even saw like a comment in an old forum of someone saying that a Dokkan creator got banned for using that bug. No idea if that's true or not, but honestly I couldn't find more about it. But many players are convinced that this was a true exploit. And if it is, then yeah, the devs messed up big time with that one. Being able to dupe stone is just like, that's just insane. Now that I actually think about it, this unlocked a very old memory in my mind. I remember speaking to this guy in high school about mobile games back in like 2017, and I forgot how we got there, but I remember him mentioning something about a Dokkan bug and how he had an unlimited amount of stones but then got banned for it. So maybe he actually did use some sort of dupe bug. It's possible, but yeah, I wasn't playing Dokkan at the time, so I don't know. Did you know that Dokkan has a bunch of story events that never came back and you can't even access in the Portal of Memories? And the unfortunate part is that those events came with farmable characters we may never be able to farm again. The Penguin Village story event with 2 farmable free-to-play units, Kid Goku and Arale, the One Piece crossover campaign with a farmable Super Saiyan Goku, the Resurrection F story event with an SR HL Frieza and an R Police Officer Krillin. Did you know that there's a tech Final Form Frieza that has been removed from the regular SSR summon pool? Probably because of his awakening. Like, he's a Planet Saga Frieza that awakens into a golden Frieza from the Resurrection of F movie. So as you would guess, his categories are kind of all over the place. And this is not the first unit actually that they removed from the regular SSR pool. They also removed one of the first original 4 SSRs from the general SSR pool back in the days, but they actually brought him back during the 2021 worldwide celebration and gave him an awakening. So this could potentially happen to that Frieza. Like, they could potentially bring him back, fix his categories, revamp the Resurrection of F story event, and I guess easy him? Honestly, who knows? Back in 2018, they accidentally gave some players a fully maxed UR copy of Tech GT's percentage Vegeta. He was fully leveled and Ace 10, which was actually quite a big deal since his super attack wasn't farmable, and Kais were still pretty scarce at the time. This then led to the data miners looking at the game files and finding out about the other super Saiyan Vegeta who was supposed to come with him. People thought at that time that they were maybe replacements for the Dragon Ball Heroes units, since those cards weren't on Global yet, and nobody knew if they were ever going to. But yeah, Global held an extended maintenance afterwards to resolve the issue, and players were not only expecting to keep their copy of Super Saiyan Vegeta, but also get some sort of big compensation like 300 stones. And if you're a long-time Global player, you can already guess what they did. They took back all of the copies of Vegeta from the players and just gave everyone 25 stones. I hope they at least refounded the potential orbs some players put into that Vegeta card. Otherwise, that's gotta be like a top 10 global shaft. Did you know that there's 2 April Fool's cards that aren't obtainable anymore? The 2017 Cyberman card that was referenced in the main menu screen at the time, and the 2018 Pepe Gul's trophy card. That actually wasn't a playable card, and literally just a trophy card. This adult Gotenks trophy card was given out on JP as a free login bonus reward card during multiple hero celebrations, but for some reason, never on global. Like, they never gave out that card on global. And now that Heroes isn't a tin anymore, I'm afraid that we global players will simply never ever get to own a copy of that card. So sad, bro. If you didn't know, there used to be some sort of key multiplier bug in the game, a bug that affected units who had built-in key in their passives, mainly key that they got on super, and it made it so that they would launch higher attack stats than usual when overflowing with key, because that key would in some weird way buff their key multiplier, a bug that was made apparent with the release of LRKL on Caulifla, because they could attack so many times within the turn, and because of the fact that their link set was essentially just filled with key links, well, it broke something within the game. They weren't just having like a higher key multiplier anymore, they were able to launch additional 18 key super attacks, which was just crazy. In a failed attempt to fix LRKL on Caulifla's key multiplier bug, the devs somehow just broke the game. Like, literally. LR started launching additional 18 key super attacks. You could now take damage and die while in a giant ape transformation. Characters' attack stats suddenly displayed like much higher numbers than expected. It was possible to have a 0 HP health bar, and some characters' sprites just completely disappeared during their animations. So yeah, it was like a whole fiasco. All of that because of one unit. One unit started that entire chain reaction. The update 4.14.3 on global literally stopped you from using super type items. Like, your game would crash if you use a super type item. If I'm not mistaken, it took them almost 2 months to fix the problem. There was legit a notice in game asking players not to use super type items or their game would crash. I have no idea how they got away with that. All I remember is that Dokkan was so dry at the time that I barely played the game while the issue was there, which meant that it would have been the perfect time to try and no items from old Super Bad Road stages. But yeah, you couldn't even do that because like they closed like so many events because of that bug, including Super Battle Road. Like, this has to be one of Global's biggest L's. Not being able to use super type items for almost 2 months is just insane. Absolute craziness.
Hey, excuse me, sir. Yeah, me. Sorry to bug you. Hate to stop your money counting and all that. I was just wondering, when are we not pushing out this global Dokkan battle picks, or what's going on with that?
Can they still buy Dragon Stones and summon?
Well, yeah, I mean, the shop and summon features work fine like normal, but support items are completely gone, and the players have been missing out on a bunch of events for like a week straight, and we haven't done anything yet. I was just...
Hey, can they still buy Dragon Stones and summon?
Yes, they can still buy Dragon Stones and summon.
Okay then.
Back in 2021, a Reddit user by the name of Broman Dude made a post showcasing a new bug he found. A bug that would exponentially multiply all of your character's stats and hidden potential abilities, like crit dodge and additionals. And the crazy part about that bug was that it was actually extremely easy to replicate. All you had to do was restart your game while in battle, and then when reconnecting, enable and disable the airplane mode on your phone. Hence why the bug was called the airplane bug. Then boom, once in game, all of your characters were now absolute monsters. As you would guess, that bug took the community by storm, and everyone started using it. I actually used it myself to beat the first 3 stages of the Hercule Nuken event. Like, I'm sorry bro, but that event was just pure BS. I genuinely have no regrets doing that. Take for example the Coordinate Body and Mind Legendary Goku event mission. Another mission that was complete BS at the time, and that people gladly used the airplane bug to beat. Well, that mission now is like a complete joke, as it should be. But that Nuken event, still BS. Even though it came like 3 years before that mission. But yeah, people didn't use that bug to beat some missions. They also used it to do some crazy stuff like killing V-Pen or just juicing up some meme characters to oblivion. But all of that came at a cost. Shortly after the discovery of the airplane bug, the devs put a notice in the news saying that anyone who used that bug would have their account permanently banned. This made players very mad. The Dokkan subreddit was literally flooded with cope following that announcement. The community went through the 5 stages of grief in the span of like 3 days. It was just so crazy. Even big Dokkan YouTubers like Nano used the bug on video, and he did it on his main global account. But from what I can remember, he didn't actually finish the event. so he assumed he would be safe. But even he wasn't immune. Like I said, the whole community went through the 5 stages of grief, and the last stage was acceptance. Nano and many others, including me, had already accepted their fate.
Said I was doing the video for literal educational purposes and the hopes of signal boosting it and getting Bandai to notice it and fix it, please. And so there it is. But if my global goes down for it, it is what it is. A lot of y'all have tagged me. Is your global gonna get banned, Nano? You're bye-bye your global. It is what it is, what happens. You know what I mean? Stay tuned, I guess. Maybe you'll see a video coming out where I'm like, I got banned. Who knows?
Thankfully, in the end, they actually didn't ban anyone, or at least not anyone who actually used the airplane bug. I'm not sure if this is true, but apparently there were much worse bugs in the game at the time, like a bug that allowed you to duplicate stones. I've personally never seen it in action, so it was probably just fake news or people trying to spread like rumors, but if it were true, I guess it was well kept, and those players were the players that probably got banned at the time. Dokkan devs threatened to ban players multiple times through the history of the game, and one of those instances was back in December 2021, with the glitched Kaioken Goku in the first global burst mode. The friend LR Kaioken Goku's stats were glitched, like he had a 1 million plus based attack stat, meaning he could pretty much one-shot anything in the game, including achieving the highest burst mode score quite easily. As you would guess, as soon as the devs were made aware of that bug, they put a notice in the news saying that all players who used the glitched LR Goku friend were going to have their accounts suspended, which is absolutely ridiculous. Like, it's not like the airplane bug where you had to do a specific like set of things to trigger the bug. You literally just picked a unit that was already available in game. This could have easily been done by mistake. How could the players have guessed that the unit was glitched? It's not like you check every friend character's stats before using them. I legit just picked the friend unit with the highest potential system. Bro, like I don't analyze them. So yeah, players were furious. But since they didn't ban players for using the airplane bug, most people kept their cool. And yeah, in the end, they didn't ban anyone. Did you know that the card art of the TOR of the Worldwide Namek Saga LR% Goku was actually different between both versions? The one on Global is the one we currently have, where all the shading of the card is blue. But on JP, they had a different version where Goku had his regular colors. I don't even know how they even managed to do that, but let me know which one you prefer in the comments down below. I personally prefer the one we had on Global. The blue shading just hits different. Super Sentry Gotenks Sprite used to have a dislocated right foot. Well, at least I think so. I'm not sure if my memory is playing tricks on me, but I remember that at some point in time, they actually put a notice in the news saying that they had fixed the issue with the newest update. But I might just be imagining things here. As you awaken the LR Broly trio from SSR to TUR to LR, the names of the passives change to reflect the character's motivations. In their SSR form, Broly fights for his life. In their TUR, Broly fights for his father. And in their LR state, Broly fights for his friends. And talking about the LR physical Broly trio, their best linking partner is Hearts, which is honestly a fun fact in itself. Like, they share 6 links together. How is that even possible? Those two cards are literally worlds apart, bro. Worlds apart. I'm pretty sure they don't even share a single team together. The fact that they share 6 links together is just crazy. Vegeta is probably the most shafted card in Dokkan history. I could go on and on about all of the shafts the Prince of All Saiyans endured, but we would be here all night, so I'll just go over the ones most people probably never heard of. Strength % Blue Vegeta on release was just a worse version of Agel's % Blue Goku in pretty much every metric imaginable. He had a worse leader skill, since defense didn't mean anything at the time, had a worse base attack stat, and most importantly, had a way worse damage multiplier, which is crazy because the guy dropped a week after Goku. So knowing gacha games and the fact that Toshi was the producer of Dokkan at the time, you would assume that he would have been better than Goku, but for some reason he wasn't. Strength GT's % Vegeta didn't have over enough flash when all of his Goku counterparts did. But the crazy part is that not only did they shaft him on release, when over enough flash was pretty much the best key link in the game, they also shafted him when he got his Dokkan Awakening, because that guy got his Dokkan Awakening alongside the release of Super Sentry Bardock, who introduced the Super Sentry category, a category that, as you would guess, was solely based on the over enough flash key link. Man, did they do him dirty. In Vegeta, that came with Physical Kid Buu, was completely shafted due to his type on release. Like, there was no Nuken N-type leader at the time, and Physical Kid Buu's Dokkan Event's final stage was, well, physical. while his Goku counterpart was not only strength, but also had a better damage multiplier for some reason. Agel Gogeta Blue was the first unit ever to have crits, dodge, and additionals all at once at 55%. Crit and dodge from his passive, and additionals from the hidden potential system. The free-to-play Metal Coolers, and now the Rose clones, are the only characters to have typing in their names. No other unit in the game has types in their name, at least for now. Tien, Yamcha, Chaozu, Hercule, and Videl are the only characters in game to have a card in each rarity, going from N to LR, and probably forever, since I don't see them releasing more N characters in the future, or giving an LR to a unit like Kui. But if they do, I guess Kui will be added to that list. Cell Jr. too, if they ever decide to give Cell Jr.'s an SR. The last premium SR to release was SR Super Saiyan GT Trunks, who came out during the 4th year anniversary. That guy was surprisingly not bad for an SR at the time, but even then, SRs were just unusable unless they had something really special, like the SR Ox King, who could stack defense, making him an actual viable option in the Legendary Goku event. Agel Golden Frieza is possibly the best agent unit in the whole history of the game. He released back in 2016 and is still viable even to this day, thanks to his insane 90% damage reduction. Another fun fact about him, but if you run 2 Kid Gokus on rotation with him, he can get up to 100% damage reduction, making him invincible. SR Tech Jaco and In Chaozu's passives used to be worded incorrectly, saying that they may have a chance of stunning all enemies. This has been corrected since the big Dokkan 2 update, and their passives now represent what they were always doing, stunning all enemies once only on their first appearance. So yeah, they're very useful in SBR or even the World Tournament. The longest piece of animation text in the game belongs to the Int LR Shadow Dragons. It's 134 characters long. There is an SR Raditz that increases the enemy's attack by 20%. Like, that's crazy. This is the only unit that actually buffs an enemy. Well, if you exclude domains. Like, this is pretty much the closest thing we had to domains before domains. Our final showdown Goku is the only character to Dokkan Awaken into a different type exclusively on Global. He goes from Tech to AGL back to Tech. The Gammas, Int, Spirit Sword of Hope Trunks, Tech Merge Zamasu, AGL Super Vegito, and Physical Broly are the only Dokkan Fest units in Dokkan's history to share their initial Dokkan Fest banners with another new Dokkan Fest, instead of it being a dual Dokkan Fest. The only representation of GT Hercule we have in Dokkan is an air card that, as surprising as it may sound, used to be pretty good in strike events thanks to its low cost and defensive capabilities. Do you know why the LR GT Cell and Frieza were called LR Fortnite within the community? It's because Frieza and Cell got skins in Fortnite literally 2 days before the release. And if you don't know or just don't remember, this is the guy from Fortnite was a pretty big meme within the community at the time. So yeah, that's why. GT's percent Gokus in Dokkan have golden tails. While in the anime, Goku, as far as I remember, only had a golden tail in Super Saiyan 3. Dokkan is also pretty inconsistent with the tail color of their Super Saiyan 3 cards. Some cards have golden tails, while others have brown tails. LRGT B-Pan was technically the first unit to have the active skill mechanic in the game's database, but we could only awaken her into an LR after clearing all of the missions of the B-Pan event. So the LR Super Saiyan 4s were still the first playable units with the active skill mechanic. I don't even know how that happened, but for a brief time, the TOR of the free-to-play Possessed Goten had a lower defensive stat than his SSR. Like, his defensive stat literally got lower upon Dokkan Awakening, which definitely wasn't intentional, so they just fixed it. Dokkan's animated LR arts are actually pretty cool, and for the longest time I thought that every LR in the game had animated card arts. But nah, if you didn't know, the 3rd year anniversary LRs, transformed card arts, are not animated at all. They're literally static card arts, which really makes me think those LRs were actually made last second, and were supposed to be the download celebration LRs of that year, while the transforming Goku and Frieza were supposed to be the 3rd year anniversary headliners. They probably went on Twitter and got fooled into thinking that Namek isn't anniversary worthy, and that every anniversary has to have some sort of fusion in it. Who knows? Isn't it funny how Dokkan dropped a data download back in 2020 just to paint SR Cell's fingernails? They used to do that a lot back in the days. Like, I remember them randomly updating old characters' assets in random data downloads. And most often times than not, when that happened, it meant that the unit was probably going to get a new release in the upcoming year or so. But for Cell, it actually amounted to nothing. I have no idea if this is actually true or not, as this didn't work for me, but apparently you can reset UI Goku's EX super attack proc every turn by closing and opening up your game, meaning you can potentially always have UI Goku's EX super attack up. but I personally tried it like 10 times and it just didn't work for me. But I've seen multiple players on Twitter and Reddit saying that it actually works. There's even some guy on Twitter who recorded the whole thing, and yeah, it looks like it's true. But I don't think it's something as simple as just resisting your game. Or it could be, and I'm just extremely unlucky. Did you know that Dr. Relo's SSR's attack stat at level 1 is 1990, which is the year his movie came out? That's actually such a cool and fun little detail they put into his card. Now this is pretty crazy and I'm surprised nobody realized that, but Dokkan Fest Strength Broly's passive was actually changed. Before the big Dokkan update that came during the 10th year anniversary, his passive used to reduce his defense to 0, but now it reduces his defense by 100k. And maybe this was always what his passive used to do, I don't know. But the wording clearly changed, and since that buff procs when attacking, the guy either got buffed by that change, or his passive wasn't accurate at all before that update. I don't know if this is true or not anymore, but back in the days, the only way you could 100% back up your Dokkan account was by buying stones, since you could use that receipt to recover your account if you ever lost it by contacting Bandai, which I guess made sense. Like, I'm sure they keep track of all of the stones transactions and on which accounts they were made. I literally remember people buying the $1 stone deal back then just to make sure they had some sort of stone receipt to recover their account. Isn't it crazy how the last and only leader we got for the Super Saiyan 2 category is Majin Vegeta? Wouldn't you expect Gohan, the first ever Super Saiyan 2 character, to lead that category? Not like it matters that much, as the category is absolutely useless now that Power Beyond Super Saiyan is a thing, but it's still a funny fact to me. Have you ever wondered what Dokkan actually looked like in its alpha or beta phase? Well, I found these old screenshots from what looks like an old interview of Toshi, from when he was actually the producer of Dokkan, and that screenshot with Vegeta kicking Frieza is actually pretty interesting. The different animations for normal attacks we got during the Dokkan 2.2 update are now confirmed to be a scrapped idea from the past, but that's not it. As you can see, that single attack had 3 damage markers, with the total damage at the top. So the damage from normals and maybe even super attacks was, I think, supposed to be split into different parts of the animation, which is pretty interesting. As for Toshi's interview, because yes, if you didn't know, Toshi, the old producer of Dokkan, had an interview with Jewel Shockers during Global's 2nd year anniversary, and there are some gems in there. Like, for example, Toshi was asked about the Global and GP timelines, and if they were ever going to get synced at some point in the future, and he said that they were definitely working on closing the gap between both versions, which is extremely interesting, because there has been multiple instances in this game's history where we thought the games were going to get synced. Like, I can't exactly remember them all, but there were times where the gap between both versions was getting pretty small, so to know that this was something they had planned at the time makes me think both the Global and GP timelines were supposed to sync much earlier. But then Toshi quit Dokkan for Legends and the plan changed. Toshi was also asked about the biggest difference between the Japanese and global player base, and he literally said the characters picks. He said that GP players prefer strong characters, whatever that means, and that Western players newly released stuff in the anime, which is honestly pretty accurate, because from what I've heard, Daima wasn't really that hype and appreciated in Japan, at least opposed to the West. So I wouldn't even be surprised if the only reason we even got Daima for anniversary was because of said Western audience. I'll definitely leave the interview in the description down below if you're interested. Did you know that some names are actually banned from Dokkan? Obviously they don't want people to have some crazy words as their names, but what I don't understand is that names that aren't even bad are banned. Like Nano's and mine, bro. Like, my name is literally banned in this game. Like, brother, I have to put a 0 instead of an O to use my name in this game. Like, Omatsu, what? What did I do to you, bro? Like, they really need to work on their censorship system, because that's just crazy. Did you know that the raffle tickets we got during the 11th year anniversary used to be a thing on GP for the longest time? On GP since the 6th year anniversary, players were rewarded raffle tickets by summoning, and they could win real life rewards with them, like Dokkan Battle figurines for example. Dokkan introduced some new summon animations back in 2019, and what's interesting is that in the files, there was a Blue Goku animation that for some reason was never used again. The Blue Goku summon animation we got afterwards isn't the same. The original one was from his fight against Hit, while the other Blue Goku animation you've probably already seen in game is from the Future Saga arc. I wonder if they'll ever use it, maybe as like a multiple Dokkan Fest or LR summon animation. Did you know that Cell Max didn't have his spots in the New Year Carnival step-up banner? For some reason they just forgot to add his spots. I assume they were linked to his LR shadings assets or something. This literally just looks cursed. Literally, Cellmin. Dokkan has a dark mode feature. Well, kind of. It literally just turns the brightness brightness of the super attacks, and that's about it. Like, this is generally just so useless. Like, you can just turn off the brightness of your screen and it will be more effective than this feature, as you won't get flashbanged every time an animation ends. But I did see someone point out that it's here to help out people who may be prone to seizures because of flashing lights, and yeah, I guess that's probably it. This is a pretty well-known fact by now, but there are multiple cards in Dokkan that have different super attacks between their SSRs, TURs, and LRs. Like, for example, LR Agel's % Gohan, where they literally animated a whole new animation for his SSR and TUR of him doing the Kamehameha, just for his LR to do the Masenko. And yeah, I guess it makes sense. He was the first leader for the Kamehameha category. It wouldn't have made much sense for the leader of that category to not be on that category, so they had to give him the Kamehameha. Did you know that there's an unused Super Vegito asset in one of Dokkan's old trailers? It's not the same asset as Tech Vegito Blue's card art, nor in Super Vegito's 18 key super attack, which makes me wonder if it wasn't some scrapped card, or potentially even summon animation asset. Honestly, who knows? Talking about unused assets, do you remember Chain Battle? Every Chain Battle boss had a new unique card art, and as far as I know, none of these cards were ever used again. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some of them as free-to-play units in the future. Like, bro, some of these card arts are actually pretty sick. Like, look at that base Goku and Vegeta card art from the Cooler movie, or like that Super Saiyan God Goku, or even that Goku Black and Zamasu. Did you know that some cards in Dokkan use card arts from other cards as assets for their super attacks? For example, LR Vegito Blue literally has physical Vegito Blue's TOR art in his 18 key super attack, or LR Tech Broly, who has physical Dokkan Fest Broly's art in his transforming animation. Did you know that there's an unreleased training location? Yes, there's a training location in the game's files that will probably never ever see the light of day, but quite literally, as it's just the basic wasteland training location but at night. Or so I thought. Apparently this is just the background that is used when you Dokkan awaken a unit. During the 300 million download celebration, Dokkan released a cool Nuken event that gave broken tiles. At the time there were many speculations about what those tiles would be used for, but in the end, all we could do with them was exchange them for Baba points in Baba shop, which was a decision that I still do not understand. I literally saved my tiles as I thought this was just some sort of joke, and the celebration was going to have a secret part 3 where we would be able to exchange them for something better, because bro, like, that's just what was the point even of those tiles then? Did you know that there's a set of Global First units that were actually buffed once they came to GP Dokkan? Yes, the other World Tournament units released almost a year early on Global, so by the time they came to JP, they would have been outdated, hence why they were buffed. And those buffs were pretty significant. For example, Physical Super Kaiken Goku on JP reduced his HP on Super by 5% instead of the 7% of his global counterpart. Then he had an additional ki and 20% more attack in his passive, as well as a 30% dodge chance, something that his global counterpart didn't have. Did you know that Majin Vegeta's 18 key super attack was bugged before his release? Instead of doing the final explosion pose, he did his 12 key super attack pose during his 18 key super, and not gonna lie, it has some aura to it. Let me know which one you prefer. This is a pretty well known fact by now, but if you ever wondered why your leader and friend unit always seem to end up in the same rotation, it's because a friend unit can never start in the 7th slot. It might not seem useful in normal events, as your friend leader and your leader are almost always the same unit, but this can help you tremendously in Dokkan Battlefield. You can make your best leader the sub leader, and that way they'll never end up in the 7th slot. Also, if you didn't know, every additional attack a unit launches counts as an additional chance for them to trigger their hidden potential system attack. This is why counter units that counter before attacking launch more additionals more frequently, or why units with a lot of built-in additionals seem to trigger their hidden potential system attack more often. Did you know that you can search up multiple categories by typing the first few letters of the categories you're looking for instead of like searching them up individually? That tip can honestly save you some time in the long run. Like, how many times are we searching up categories in game? Pretty much every time we're building up a team. So yeah, that's a lot of time saved over time. Also, did you know that tag units act as completely different characters in game? Meaning if you're using a tag blue duels for example, and Super Saiyan Blue Goku gets debuffed, you can switch to Blue Vegeta and he won't have the debuffs that Goku had. As far as I know, the only debuff that can carry over between tag units is lock-in, but everything else is removed. Isn't it crazy how LR Strength Full Powers Frieza's EZA literally has less ki post EZA? When all of his conditions are active pre EZA, he has 9 ki, but when those same conditions are active post EZA, he only gets up to 8 ki. This really puts into perspective how much thought they put into Frieza's EZA. None. Did you know that the LR androids SSR, TUR, and LR all have different card arts? But if you look closely, Android 18 is actually wearing a different outfit in each one. What's really cool is that the outfit she has in the card art actually carries over into their super attack. So depending on if it's the SSR, TUR, or LR, Android 18 will be wearing a different outfit in the super. Same thing with the Android 18 from the Battlefield shop. Her TUR and SSRs have different outfits, not only in their card arts but also super attacks. This is just so cool. Isn't it crazy how Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta and Super Saiyan Blue Evolution Vegeta only ever got standalone cards during anniversaries? Like these two versions of Vegeta never released as standalone cards outside of anniversaries. As a matter of fact, Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta never even released as a playable character outside of an anniversary. Which is pretty crazy. You've all seen the crazy UI Goku animations, directly inspired by the Moro arc from the manga. But did you know that this is not the first time that Dokkan has animated manga original attacks? For example, Ageless Percent Evolution Vegeta's super attack is the Gamma Burst Flash, an attack he only used in the manga. Or Agel Merge Zamasu with his Lightning of Absolution. Part of his super attack is directly taken and animated from the manga. So I think we can expect even more manga original attacks in the upcoming years. Did you know that until the update 4.6.0 back in 2019, you couldn't even scroll in the Baba shop by swiping your screen left and right? You literally had to click on the little arrows to navigate the Baba shop. That's just crazy. This game has really come a long way, bro. Did you know that Scalder items are literally not active during Giant Form transformations? I have no idea why, but I tried it recently with Super Saiyan 3 Goku's Giant Form transformation, and I was just as surprised to see that the Scalder effect just disappears once you enter his Giant Form state. Not like it matters as you're invincible, but it could suck if they ever decide to release the Giant Form transformation with no Scalder and a super attack counter. Well, this is a well-known fact by now, but if you didn't know, active skill conditions can be changed with Easy Is because of how they're coded within the game. But thankfully, the passive skill transformations can be changed by Easy Is, and I'm pretty sure even Super Easy Is. So once we'll get the first transformation Super Easy Is, probably the 3rd year anniversary LRs, I wouldn't even be surprised if their transformation conditions do actually change. Now, someone has to explain to me how the Broly trio is the only Broly card in the game to have the big bad bosses link. Like, this makes no sense at all. Like, Broly doesn't have big bad bosses. Shilai too. So you're telling me Lemo is the reason why this card has the big bad bosses link? There's just no way. But I saw someone say that the reason why they do is because Broly is big, Shilai is bad, and Lemo is the boss. And honestly, that might just be it. Have you ever wondered why do cards in this game even have a team cost? Well, it's because back in the days, you used to have a team cost limit that you could upgrade by either leveling up or, I think, but I'm not sure, using stones. And this was especially rough for newer players, as you literally couldn't even run a proper team of TURs, let alone LRs, before you got to a certain level. So they just decided to remove the team cost limit completely with the versions they update, as it didn't even matter for veterans, and was just a handicap for newer players. Now team cost is literally only a thing because of burst mode. If you didn't know, back in the days, Kai's and Hercule statues used to take up box space. Like Kai's I could maybe understand to some extent, as they're used to level up the super attack of other characters, but Hercule statues? Brother, this was just ridiculous. Thankfully Zenny wasn't really like an unlimited currency back then, so unless you were like a Giga Well or Easy Grinder, you couldn't reach the Zenny cap, at least not to the extent that Hercule statues taking box space could become like a problem for you. But if it was still the case today, yeah, this would suck, like, big time. Do you guys remember this fake Vegito Blue leak? So many people fell for that back in the days. The leak appeared around the time Vegito Blue won the 2nd year anniversary legendary election, and it teased that physical Vegito Blue would be able to Dokkan Awaken into an LR, which was just so insanely hype, as most players already had him. So the fact that he would get a potential free upgrade was just amazing. And for that LR Vegito Blue card art just had aura, man, like just look at him. What happened to rank S potential systems? It's like they gave those to the first Dokkan Fest units and then just forgot. Because yes, if you didn't know, there are multiple tiers of hidden potential system given different stats, and the higher tier is the S rank, which gives the most stats, and only 10 units in this game have that potential system rank. Every other premium unit in the game has a rank A potential system at best. Actually, now that I think about it, I think they just stopped giving units rank S potential systems, as it's maybe just too pay to win. Like bro, those first few Dokkan Fests look completely different with dupes. This is also a pretty obvious fact by now, but giant form transformations skills give you a free turn of no spray attacks or AO normals from the enemy, and it's because the game doesn't actually advance the turn counter while you're in a giant or rage mode. So when you come back, you're still on the exact same turn, and since enemies can only super a limited number of times per turn, if they already used those supers during your giant phase, they simply can't launch more when you return. However, this doesn't work with every boss in the game, as some bosses just have too many actions or available spray attacks, so some bosses can still launch spray attacks once your giant form ends. Did you know that the card that has the highest key leader skill is the 50th anniversary trophy card? That Blue Goku gives 5 key to Realm of Gods category units if you have all 5 super types on your team, and honestly I think he'll probably keep that title for a long time. The only way I see them giving more key and new leader skills is if they add a new rarity into Dokkan, and that new rarity might have something like a 36 key super duper ultra spray attack or something. Maybe we'll see that for like the 14th or like 15th year anniversary, or even way later, who knows. You already know how Dokkan had a collab with One Piece Treasure Cruise, but did you know that it was maybe intended for Doflamingo to drop as a playable card, as the guy literally had a sprite asset, an asset you could only see if you used him yourself as a player. So why would they even bother making that back sprite if he was never intended to be a playable unit? But we know this is not the first instance of them doing something like that, as shown during the 11th year anniversary livestream. Those GT Gohan and Goten cards seem to be playable on their end, but in the game they're only available as bosses, so maybe the devs just did that to have fun behind the scenes or something. Honestly, who knows. If you didn't know, some units have unique card arts that you can only see in their super attacks, like Strength Janemba's super attack, Int LR Piccolo's 18 key super, or even Text Percentry Goku's 12 key super attack. This is pretty interesting, and I wonder if those card arts or assets have ever been used outside of their super attacks. Did you know that on release, you needed 77 battlefield medals to awaken Int LR's person's Gohan into an LR, which was probably a mistake because Dokkan Battlefield was extremely hard on release. It was an event Wells could barely beat, so a lot of players considered not even summoning for him just because they didn't even think they would be able to awaken him within a year, and that's not even considering how bad his rates were. That guy had a 0.8% pull rate, not 0.8, 0.08. Bro, this was just ridiculous. Like honestly, even 7 Dokkan Battlefield medals was pretty rough for the time, so imagine 77. That's why on Global, when he first released, his banner literally gave Battlefield medals. Did you know that Dokkan is the only game to ever recognize the false Super Saiyan Goku? Not a single other game ever recognized that form as a real thing, as if you didn't know, the Slug movie was made before Goku ever turned into a Super Saiyan for the first time in the anime, so they had to make their own version of what they thought Super Saiyan Goku would look like. So the fact that Dokkan has a story event asset of false Super Saiyan Goku is pretty cool. Did you know that AGL Nell got nerfed before his EZA, only to later on get buffed again due to LR Piccolo's release? Yes, when AGL Nell first got his EZA, they changed his Piccolo condition to a Namekian condition, which at first looked like a buff since the pool of character got bigger, but the problem is that they later on released an exchange Gohan and Piccolo LR, a unit that wasn't on the Namekian category, despite being a Piccolo unit, so they buffed him and added back the Piccolo condition so that he could work with the new LR. Now this fact could actually be helpful for GP players who don't speak Japanese, but if you didn't know, in the category tab, the very first category listed is always the one the unit actually leads. After that, every other category are just there in order of release of the GP timeline. Did you know that Dokkan is one, if not the only Dragon Ball game to actually reference Yamoshi? He's briefly mentioned during the story mode if I'm not mistaken, but it's not the only reference we got in the story mode. Vegeta's key splitting technique he learned during the Moro arc was also mentioned in the story mode. Bro, even Ginyu's original body was mentioned there. Did you know that the link with the least amount of units in the game is the Unbreakable Bond link, which not only 3 units share, but 2 of those units have the exact same name, and the link is actually pretty good, giving 2 key and 20% defense. So I really don't understand why they only gave it to 3 units and kept it that way. Maybe we'll see this link make a comeback once they reanimate the Resurrection of F arc, who knows? Did you know that Dokkan has a no-to support type memory feature? And you would think that the feature just picks the best support type memory for your current team, but nah bro, it just picks one randomly. Why does this feature even exist? Like genuinely, I can't think of a single scenario where this feature could be used. This just doesn't make any sense and might just be the most useless feature in Dokkan history. For the longest time, I thought that it was impossible for a unit to take 0 damage in Dokkan, but apparently not. You can sometimes take 0 damage in this game, but what's actually happening here is that the unit dodges the attack, but the animation just doesn't play out, so it shows 0 damage instead. So this is literally just a visual bug. So I'm pretty sure you still can't take 0 damage in this game outside of that visual visual bug, and obviously with like nullifications and whatnot, but straight up take 0 damage from a normal attack, yeah, I don't think that's possible. Did you know that bosses who absorb Ki Blast spray attacks can actually die from said Ki Blast attacks? Yes, if the damage from the Ki Blast is high enough and the HP recovery they'll get from it is actually higher than their max HP, it just kills them. It's like the energy from the Ki Blast they absorb is so high that they just can't take it and just die. Did you know that the Dokkan Fest in Android 17 and 18 will have the highest base HP stat in the game once they get their Easy A? Their base HP stat rainbowed will be over 30,000, bro. Like, that's just insane. With the new 250% HP leader skills, this could go a long way for them. But what's actually sad is that Tech Trunks, on the other hand, won't gain many stats from his Easy A. You see, the formula they use to calculate Easy A stats takes the difference between the max level and base stats. And since the difference between the stats for him is almost non-existent, his stats will barely change post Easy A, just like the Dokkan Fest physical Broly, which is honestly pretty sad. I hope they take this into account, or else that guy is literally going to get shafted twice. Bad on release and bad on Easy A. Another fun fact is that for some reason, there's an SR percent Vegeta that was, and maybe still is, worth 1000 Baba points, when normally SRs were and are still only worth 500 Baba points. No idea why, but people at the time were speculating that the guy was going to get a Dokkan Awakening or something of the sort, which, as you can guess, never happened. So this is the end of the video. If you've got even more fun facts about Dokkan, feel free to leave them in the comments down below. I would love to hear them. And if I've made a mistake, also feel free to correct me in the comments down below. I literally always find new stuff about this game, so I'll probably remake this video again like a year from now with even more new facts. But yeah, until then, take care. Peace.